What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 370 of Opinions May Vary. I'm your host, JR. I have my co-host with me, Alex.
Hey.
How are you?
Pretty good.
We got a 3-day weekend coming up for those who
You do.
have the 3-day weekend.
I might have an extra day.
Joining us this week, all the way out in the West Coast land that's so far away, I almost believe it doesn't exist, is toy designer Jason Langston. Jason, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Very excited.
We are both excited and also, we touched about this on pre-show. Alex and I typically rely on our friend John, who's a big toy aficionado, to kind of hold our hands when it comes to toys, figures, statues, what have you. So you'll have to excuse our ignorance.
Incompetence,
yeah. We'll just go, we'll be honest about it. But I mean, right, to get people started, you know, to kind of give people a base of what we're going to be talking about here. Jason, do you want to? What do you do? What's your thing? How do you come into this? Like, can you give us a quick background?
My thing right now is sitting on my ass for the most part, but
I feel you.
Prior to the ass sitting experience, I was working at Mattel. I was there for about 9 years. Mostly in the packaging department, and then the last 2 years that I was there, I was working on product. I was working specifically on the DC Multiverse 6-inch collector line. And how I got into it was a lot of begging and pleading and saying, I can do this, please just give me an opportunity, I want to work on it. And luckily, my friend, my mentor, my angel, Bill Beneke, he was the manager on the brand, and he gave me a shot at working on it. So it was great.
And I saw a few posts where you said you're working with Four Horsemen as well.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to get into the process and all that stuff, but the Four Horsemen handled the majority of the sculpts, not everything, but they handled a lot of the sculpting for that. And so like my responsibilities in there would be picking a character, picking the look that I want for the character, and then reaching out to them and seeing what basically getting them to sculpt the new parts that we could afford in the budget. So a lot of, we were just talking, like you're saying pre-show, when you have an established buck, like a body that you're already going to work with, you have existing tooling, then you go through and you're like, what can we afford to do new that will make this character come to life? Does he need a new head? Obviously he needs a new head. We need new arms or legs, stuff like that. So you just kind of pick and choose the things you want sculpted, and then you hire your sculpting team. Not always Four Horsemen, but for the most part they were the go-to. And then they send you your sculpts and stuff like that. So, but it's a lot of project management. You're looking at different they get the sculpts done, but you still have to give them feedback on whether it's working or not, because you have to have the licensor approved, which in this case it was Warner Brothers in DC. You get the sculpt, and they send it to us, send it to China. China engineers would chop it up and make it look hideous, and you'd have to go back in and fix it and add the articulation points that you want and stuff like that. So it's a lot of project management. So like, it's designer is a loose term, art director is a loose term. It's a lot of project management.
Is it more like cat herding, I guess?
It's squirrel herding, actually.
That's even worse.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. And they'll steal nuts. You got to be real careful. Yeah.
So already I'm feeling lost, because I guess my best comparison is like the video game industry, where it's like a team is gonna develop a game, but they don't distribute or publish it. They go to someone else for that. So was Mattel more like just a distributor and a publisher? Because I figure, like, what, they don't do all this stuff themselves?
So I'm obviously shitty at describing the process then. The designer, I guess, is just designing the look of it, and then it takes an entire, that old cliche, it takes a village.
Yeah.
Yep.
It takes way more than a village to get stuff from just ideation to the shelf. Because you have engineers that are getting it ready for manufacturing. You have the sculpting team. You have the team that paints it. You have the packaging team that's putting it in a box. There's the marketing team that's making sure the retailers are even interested in it. I mean, it takes a lot. So it's sort of, I always feel a little weird about saying, oh yeah, I designed the fig. Like I'm excited about it, but my piece of it is just oversight. And for the most part, like there are a lot of people doing a hell of a lot more work on it than I was doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to forget that like all this work goes into a product that ultimately, it's designed for kids to enjoy. And for the most part, like there are the collectors who are going to buy it and never take it out of the package.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be either locked away in a vault, or it'll be like in a display case for the entirety of its existence, or it'll be in a kid's play bucket, or like my entire Ninja Turtles collection, which I still have, sitting in a cardboard box in my parents' basement, which includes half of the Technodrome. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. It's not, but it's not complete.
Only half?
Only half.
Oh.
Yeah.
But which half? Or is it the front facing of it? Like, could you stick it up against a wall and feel like, I've got the Technodrome?
Oh, that's a good point. Because I think I have one half of like because the Technodrome was a weird toy.
Yeah.
And like the eyeball on top that would roll off like a cannonball.
Right.
That part has been lost to time. That one's gone.
Oh, that's sad.
Yep, it really is. But I have like, because like the outer shells would like open up and you could have like the thing in there, and there's like one side of the shell that's still there. So I guess I could put it up against a wall.
That's what I'm saying. So I have a ton of my Ninja Turtles still, and I always wanted the sewer play set.
I had
the
that
Technodrome, and it never happened. Never happened for me. So talk it up, you spoiled punk.
It's true. Yeah, my 1 year for Christmas, and I can literally picture it. Right, and my brother got in a Technodrome, which I inherited because eventually my brother didn't care about toys. And that year, the year my brother got a Technodrome, I got the sewer kit, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world that you could connect them with the plastic pipes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Like getting my brother to agree to connect, like, no, it's my toy.
Right.
You're not connecting your toy to my toy. So it was always I had to sneak the Technodrome and have playtime by myself. But I distinct like that sewer kit was hella underrated, and I respect the fact that
man. Yes, it's slime because you could pour slime down one portion of it and it would come out at the bottom, right?
Yes, it was so good.
Yes, man. So Turtles. I mean, I love DC. I worked on DC for a long time. Turtles is my jam, dude. I can't even tell you. Like I ended up giving away quite a few of them when we moved. We bought a place like 5 years ago, and to clear garage space, I got rid of a lot of stuff, but I kept like the core, like that, like main. If you like flipped over the card, like the first like 10 figures that they made, like those are the figures I kept.
Yep.
But I mean, I went deep on that line. Like we were talking, like what was the manta ray guy, Ray Fillet, and Wingnut and Screw Loose. Like I went deep and way too long, probably because like I was already. Let's see, when was that?
It's like last week.
I was in 6th grade. Still down. Like I recently bought the duck. It was an Ace Duck or Ace McDuck or something like that. And I recently got him, and I was like, because I had him when I was a kid, and I wanted that figure back so bad. I was just I'm just laying there, I'm like, damn, eBay, please have this for me. And it did. It never lets me down.
It was an incredible line. Like I still remember all the different types. Now we're just talking about turtles the rest of the episode. That's what's happening. But like all the different types of, like, you had the ones that you could like fold up into their shell. And then,
and mutations.
Yeah,
is that mutation? Yeah, or the muted
something like that.
Something. Yeah.
There was like the samurai ones. I'm assuming it was for the third movie. It was the third movie, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I just think one of my favorite Turtles toys was it was like a Triceratops dinosaur.
Yeah. That
me and my brother had nicknamed Yoshi, like from Mario. So I don't know what its actual name was. I doubt it was actually Yoshi, but we always called it Yoshi. And that would, like, I still go to because my mom ran a home daycare for like 30 years. And she retired last year. And up until last year, at any point, I could go into the kids' main toy room and Yoshi would be there. It was the most durable.
He's the orange one, right?
It was like green and blue.
Oh, he's green and blue.
Yeah.
I had a Triceratops when he was orange. Those were the Triceratons. I can't remember what his name was, though. I had one of those. I love turtles. We can, you can scrap your plans. We can just talk
Yeah,
turtles.
we're just canceling the rest of the episode. We're talking about turtles the whole time.
We're actually pretty spoiled over here because we're north end of Connecticut. So we're super close. We're like on the border of Massachusetts. And it's not uncommon to hear Eastman and Laird's name come up with many frequent conventions around.
Yeah. They live like 20 miles from us.
Practically. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so a lot of like artists around here are also big fans. When would we talk to Ben Bishop? This guy,
2 months ago?
Ben Bishop just ran a Kickstarter, and like he has been in love with turtles his entire life. And I believe Eastman like saw a book he was doing independent of turtles. It was like, hey man,
his like create your own book.
You want some turtles work? And he's like, you have no idea, sir.
And then he got to work on a Ninja Turtles comic book.
Wow.
Right?
That's
It's
awesome.
insane.
That's awesome. Did you guys check out did you watch the 2012 series at all?
No.
Not
Sadly.
a lot.
Oh, come on. It's so good.
I liked
so good.
the movie. How old was that? The recent movie that came out.
No,
the Michael
we're not
Bay
talking
one?
about that.
No.
That doesn't exist.
No,
Those
not
don't exist.
not the Michael Bay ones. It was the animated one. It was just called TMNT.
Oh, that one was good. That came out like 2006, 7-ish, 2007 maybe.
Because that was the first time that I recall them making the turtles different sizes.
Yeah, yep.
Because like Raphael was kind of bulky and Leonardo was like slimmer because he was faster.
2007, that was correct.
Yep.
I dug that.
Yeah, the 2012 series was done by Ciro Nielli, and he is a big horror fan. So I had a friend that used to work at Mattel, so we can bring it back to Mattel if you want. There's a guy, his name is Jack Rossi, and we were pretty good friends. He was at Mattel for a little while, and then he left, and he went and worked with Ciro on Turtles in the 2012 series. And he used to but when he was still working at Mattel, he would show me stuff. He'd be like, he's like, check this out. This is for season 3. Look at this. And he like show me fun. I'm like, still like 10 years old, just like, holy cow! Oh my God, they're bringing the Triceratons on. That's awesome. I'm like, wait, Turtles are my jam. So he's still there. The 2012 series was canceled, and then they started the new kind of different one. It's a little bit, it's 2D again. It's like flat art. My friend Jack's working on that one as well, but Turtles is my blood, man. I probably bleed green.
Bleed secret ooze.
Yeah, it's gross. It's super gross.
But at least when you get the sewer set, you'll be able to. Never mind.
Yeah. Fill it up. Fill her up. Yeah.
Oh man, so many things that I want to.
I'm feeling like I'm not as cool as you guys now, because I grew up playing with GI Joes.
Hey man,
hey man, I got love for GI Joe too. I'm still waiting for Hasbro to figure themselves out and do a 6-inch line. I would be all in for that.
GI Joes were no joke. My dad had the big ones, like the OG
12
ones.
inches.
Yeah, and my
oh okay.
Like 20 years ago, my grandmother sold a couple of them and got a obscene amount of money for them.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
It was.
You're talking the ones that had like real beards and like
yeah, the fuzz on them.
Right?
The fuzz was weird.
Yeah, those are so weird.
Yeah, I had those 3 1/4 inch, I guess.
Yep, that was my jam too. I was all about Real American Hero.
All the elastics connecting their parts. And, yep.
Mm-hmm.
The fun thing, if you had braces as a kid, and the O-rings broke, and you had like little tools like Dennis hooks almost. You could reassemble them using your braces rubber bands.
Your elastics for your braces.
I did that a lot.
I didn't know you had braces.
I
used to sacrifice guys. I'm like, this is for this. I'm sorry, this is for Duke. You can't. I'm sorry, Sci-Fi, but you suck. Duke is in charge. These are the hard calls that I have to make, because I was obviously General Hawk. Like, I had to make the hard calls, and I would replace the O-ring. I would take an O-ring out of one guy and put it in another. It's sad. I'm sorry that I had to do that, but
that was the time.
Was weak. I don't know, what does Sci-Fi even do?
And that was the time we lived in. It wasn't just like we can't just go out and get another one. Like, we don't have money for that. We got to salvage.
No.
Hard calls, hard decisions need to be made, and that's what a general would do.
Get out of here, Snow Job. I don't need you anyway. Your name is Snow Job.
See, this is where
we have one mission a year to the Snow Job. I think we can figure it out. I think we got this.
This is where I unfortunately am the amateur, because while I did have GI Joes growing up, I never every single GI Joe was named GI Joe, and they were just made for throwing across the room, and we're going to tie a parachute to him and throw him off the roof. And I unfortunately did not give it the proper attention.
Their names didn't last long with me because I gave them new names.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And nowadays we're spoiled because you could just buy a pack of fresh O-rings off the internet.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Kids these days.
There's no sacrifices you got to
spoiled.
make anymore.
They didn't have to make the hard choices.
If you go to retail right now, you can find a Freddy action figure. You can find Ninja Turtles that are based on the designs that were from the old show that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can find all of these things now. There's Super Mario toys now. It's like, well, it's just crazy to me.
It's because they know that we're all nostalgic dummies, and we're just gonna shell out all the money because we just want to relive our childhood. And like, I'm cool with that. Like,
yeah, I know, right?
I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I'll tell anyone, 50 times in a row. It's just that's what this episode is just turning into. It's just nostalgia. But I suppose we probably should talk. There's one thing. I recently fell down somewhat of a YouTube. What's the word I'm looking for? Like
hole?
Rabbit hole. Yep.
Yeah.
With the whole subculture of toy hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I saw some like this. It was mainly this one guy. I think Josh Pence. He has a decent following on YouTube, and he just goes to stores and conventions with his first person view with his camera, with him literally just looking at toys. He goes to a store and he looks at these toys. Oh, look at these, and he's firing off like, oh, this is this line, this is this line. Oh my god, like, pull out something that's like crazy, super duper rare, or apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll be like, oh, I'm not going to get it. The box is trash. And I'm like, dude, but who cares? It's super rare. And it was this whole, like, I just dove into this rabbit hole and I watched all these videos, and I didn't realize that there was such a subculture with this. Cause like when we go to conventions and we see like the toy booth, I don't even look twice at it. Cause like I'm too focused on comics and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it like, now I'm like, I really need to stop and look at some of this stuff because my nostalgia things start tingling. And like,
I just get confused because like at a con, we'll see, the whole, someone's shelf of toys. And then like, why is this Marvel Legends figure $80? And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, yeah, sure. It's still in a package.
And they'll look at it and be like, oh, it's a good price.
I had this odd moment at Long Beach Comic-Con a couple years ago where NECA has been doing Alien and Predator figures for a long time. And over the last couple of years, they've been doing Kenner tribute figures. And so they had this Kenner tribute figure for Aliens sitting on this guy who's selling it. And in the same booth, he had the original Kenner figure selling, and the tribute figure was twice the price of the vintage one. I couldn't get my head around that. I was like, so this is more valuable now, this new one, than the old one is, still in package. Like it was just bizarre to me. I was like, it's now I'm feeling like Doctor Who, like I'm just trapped between times. I don't know what's happening. It's all timey-wimey right now.
Being from the design side of the...
Oh, I want to go back to NECA for a second.
Okay, go back to NECA for a second.
I just want to... I guess it's a compliment. It's a weird thing. They decided to make a Predator figure based off of a fan film. Sandy Calera he was like, what was it? He's a designer. He's a makeup guy, a monster maker kind of dude. And he directed a Batman fan film, basically. And it's like,
was that the one in the alley or something like that?
Because like he starts fighting, he's fighting the Joker, but then like a Predator shows up and kills the Joker, and now it's Batman versus a Predator, and then an alien shows up, and once he beats a Predator, like one of the aliens, one of his xenomorphs is there, and then like 3 more Predators show up to fight the xenomorph, and Batman's like stuck in between them, and one of the main like the biggest Predator, because like they each have their own style or maybe their own coloring or something about them, and one was like more of a very like red armored biggest one, and so NECA made a big red Predator based off of his design.
Wow.
And it's like, that's a toy that almost shouldn't exist, but they went with it.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
With with the whole toy hunting and thing, like coming from, you know, the design and project background from the side of the people who make the toys, do you ever like what do you think about that whole kind of culture of, you know, toy hunting and finding these rare toys and then displaying them in a display case that not to be these aren't going to be played with. These are going to be displayed if they even come out of the box, if they even see the light of day out of my storage unit. You know, is that something that you're like, you get? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I can't be objective about this answer because I have 2 of those IKEA cases that you can buy, the glass ones, full of my collection. So I'm a reformed toy hunter. I don't really go toy hunting as much as I used to, but I used to. And not even, God, I was really big into the DC Classics line before I worked at Mattel. And so that's what I would do. Like on my lunch break, I would go to Target and Walmart nearby and try and find the waves for that. And working at Mattel, not only did they pay my salary, but they saved me money because I was getting free samples of those, so I wasn't having to go out and buy them anymore. But I've gotten kind of old and lazy about toy hunting, so I mostly just go on Amazon and Dorkside Toys and stuff like that. So I mostly buy mine from online retailers just to save me gas money. Plus, LA is super competitive for toy hunting. There's this toy show out in City of Industry it's like 80 miles or 60 miles from here, and it's only open twice a week. So it's like a constant Comic-Con, and they're selling toys and T-shirts and video games and stuff like that. But there are a lot of scalpers that just comb through during the week. They just go through every single Target, every Walmart. It used to be Toys R Us, and they would grab all the collectibles and then take them over there and sell them. So I'd hate it because I hate driving all the way out there for something I could have found in my own backyard. But to answer your question, because that was a long-winded answer, I love toy hunters. I just want them to be a little bit more patient because it's not in the hands of the creators. Like I get frustrated when I'm trying to find my own product on shelf because I've only seen maybe one thing that I've worked on shelf. And that's sort of the downside of designing collectibles because the distribution's not always great, and the new stuff is picked up really quick, either by scalpers or by hungry collectors that are getting it. So, but I got nothing but love for toy hunters. I don't know if I could watch a video of someone else toy hunting. That would be because I don't want to be frustrated twice.
Yeah, the rare times where I think it helps that I have no knowledge. Because every now and then, some of the toy hunters will and they'll be at a Comic-Con or like a lot of comic book shops sell toys, so they'll wind up in a comic shop and they'll start talking about comics, and instantly I'm like seething because there was one where a guy was holding up like a Marvel omnibus and he couldn't think of the word omnibus, and it was driving me insane.
It's on the spine of the book.
You know, they're like, oh, I picked up this like dope print. I got this cool variant cover, and I'm like, dude, variants are stupid. But like, so I get that 100%. But like having no background when I watch this, I'm like, oh, like is that like, and I also have questions now. When you say like you're a reformed toy hunter, I need to know, like, did you ever have like your big find? Like, did you ever find your Holy Grail? Is there a Holy Grail that exists out there somewhere?
No, you know what it came down to is like, so I have my display cases in my office that has some stuff in it that I'm really happy to look at every day. But what's happening is like Star Wars Black Series is a perfect example.
That's the big one.
I buy the Star Wars Black Series, I take them out of the box, and then they get stuck in a plastic bin, like one of those see-through plastic bins, and they're put out in the garage. So I'm not even really looking at them. So it's becoming this like, I'm buying them and I'm not really doing anything with them because I don't have place to display them. So I try to like cycle through my displays, like, all right, this week it's going to be Spider-Man and all his villains, so that's in there, and then maybe next month it'll be all my X-Men figs or something like that. But I've been freelancing but not consistently, so it's not like I've got a ton of cash coming in, so I've kind of like hit the pause button on hunting. But to be honest, there's really not anything out there that I'm that excited about right now. There's nothing like, I think there's just too much. I think we're too spoiled to the point where I'm not out toy hunting. And there is no real Holy Grail. Like the one toy that I've wanted my whole life was a Thunder Tank from Thundercats. and what happened, like, I sold a bunch of collectibles that I didn't really care about anymore. I saved up enough to where I didn't care what it cost, and I got one on eBay last summer. And now, so I guess if there's a Holy Grail, it was always that. But it's not like it was hard to find. It wasn't like I went to toy shows or anything, because I'm too lazy to go to toy shows. And there, other than the one Frankenstein's, the one out in City of Industry, there aren't a lot of those in LA. I don't know why. I think if you go to Vegas, they have a toy show, and they have toy shows up in Sacramento and stuff like. They're all over, but I don't go to them. I don't know why.
When we're in our second recording studio, we had on a friend who was a Transformers collector, and he would go to BotCons all the time looking for a specific Transformer, and he couldn't find it. And it was to the point where, like, he'd be asking different vendors if they knew where one might be, if they could send him to someone else. Yeah, he'd be asking for it. He's like, "Do you know who might have it? Do you know who might have it?" I don't remember what it was. I'd have to review his episode. But
yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
Wow. Yeah, Transformers is one that I have one third party Optimus Prime because it was gigantic. Like, I think it's like maybe 18 inches or 16. It's a big Optimus, but there aren't any other figures in that scale, and I'm happy with that, because Transformers are, like, you're saying you get into statues. That's an expensive hobby. Like, right. There's a guy at Mattel, his office is covered in third party and masterpiece Transformers all over, and I'm just like, wow, I'm glad I didn't get into those, because holy cow, they're like $200 to $300 a pop, and they're not that big. And to me, like, I want a Transformer that's large, but I don't know. So when you guys are saying that's your jam, that's not your jam. Transformers isn't my jam. I don't know why. It just never stuck with me.
I feel like 18 would be correct. Because if you put it to scale of a G.I. Joe, that would be about the right size.
Right.
Yeah, it felt right. That's what I liked about it. Like, it felt like it'd be a 6-inch figure scale kind of thing. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm happy with my one Optimus. He's cool.
I mean, if you're going to have one, I imagine Optimus, unless it's like Starscream or Soundwave, but Optimus is pretty much the one to have.
Or Jazz, or I hear you. See, that's the thing. It's a like you're saying, it's a rabbit hole, man. You start going down, and that's why I have to, like, once like I said, once the Hasbro figures out their G.I. Joe 6-inch line, it's going to be brutal, because I'm going to be all over that one. So I'm happy they actually haven't put that together yet, because I'm not ready.
I hit it worse than JR did, I guess, but a friend of ours was about on the same level when the Eagle Moss statues started coming out. And then, like, I realized I had to stop and kind of backpedal a bit.
Yep.
And then I kind of have elitist chuckle when I see all my friends collecting pops. And they got their pop vinyls. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation in itself. Let's talk about pops.
Pops don't trigger me. Like, that Marie Kondo thing, like sparking joy. They don't for me.
Yeah.
Like, I get overwhelmed by the amount of them at every show I go to, every Comic-Con, every toy, anything. And you go and you're like, God, there's like 1,000 of them. But I mean, they're brilliant. I'm not going to take anything away from them. They're brilliant. They've made something for everyone. If you like The Office, you can get Kevin holding a pot of chili. Like, they've got that for you. There you go. If you like, I mean, it's brilliant how they did that. I don't know how they make any money. I mean, licensing is very expensive.
Right.
But it just doesn't do it for me. I don't know. I don't know why.
Yeah, I remember I worked at Barnes & Noble for 10 years. And I remember when Pops first came out, and a guy came in and bought at least one of everyone that we had, which was pretty much just all the DC guys. It was like Batman, Green Lantern.
Because they were the first.
Yeah,
they were the first ones.
And I distinctly remember this. Like, this is 100% true. I was ringing him up, and he said to me, "I'm gonna retire off these," and it took everything in me not to, like, laugh in his face. Because I was like, dude, these are going to be worth nothing ever. Pops, these are going to be dead in a year. I was wrong. I mean, I don't know if the ones that he got ended up being worth any money, but there were some that I snagged at one point just because I thought they were cool, that I ended up selling for, like, how much did I bought it for like $8, and I sold a Green Lantern one for $70. You know, like, it's just... And that was like, I didn't even have the box. If I had the box, apparently that would be like triple figures. but I had no idea that those would ever take off in the way they did. I thought it was just going to be a little niche thing that like collectors could get into, but now it's just, I work in an office environment now, and if you don't have a pop figure on your desk, you're doing it wrong. Like, where's your pop figure? How else would you declare the fandoms that you're a fan of?
Yep.
I have one pop figure,
and everybody's a fan of something. That's Funko. That's their motto. Everyone's a fan of something. We had. Don't feel bad though. We had. I gotta stop saying we. Mattel had a consultant. He's an old Kenner hand. He worked at Kenner during Jurassic Park days. He worked at Hasbro during the episode 1 figure or launch. I mean, he's been in the industry a long time, and Mattel pays him to come in and give him a consulting fee and come in and tell him what's the hot new toys, what's coming out this year. And he goes to all different toy companies and gives his presentation, goes to different big major motion picture companies and stuff like that, and gives his presentation, talk about it every year. One year, it had been a couple years since Funko had come out. Someone raised their hand and asked him, what do you think about Funko? And he's like, too niche, they'll be gone in a couple of years. And he's, so wrong. I mean, the guy that owns the company, well, they're a public company now, but the guy that owned the company before it went public, I think his name's Brian Mariotti. He's got a huge house up north, so he's happy. You know, he's turned that thing into a dynasty. So it's amazing. And DC is where they got started. And my friend works at Warner Brothers, and he was the guy that Funko came to and said, what do you think about this? And he's like, they were actually thinking about it as a plush originally. And they're like, what do you think about us doing this? We think this is really cool. What if we did some vinyl stuff? And DC told them no. DC's like, no, we don't like it because it's too stylized. And my buddy over there, he's the one that said, I think we got something here. I think you guys should give them a shot. And that's when the Flash and Green Lantern and all those came out. And so now, if you ever see, there's an Art of Funko book or something like that, it's dedicated to my buddy because he helped them get their start.
Wow.
Yep.
There are like weird points in comic companies' history, because I know there was a time in the 90s when DC in the comics was like regulating how long Batman's ears were, like on his cowl.
Wow.
They're like, when you draw them, they have to be this big. Like, don't make them bigger, don't make them smaller. And then like someone will come along, like I guess Beasley or someone would just like really really crank
ridiculous,
him out.
like super long. Yeah, and the cape had so many folds in it. He looked like a vampire. I mean, it was amazing during that run.
So I could see where they, and even with some of our theme park background, when there's a variety of licensed costume characters, and it might be a face actor playing them, like there is oversight from parent companies.
A lot of oversight.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So,
and sometimes it doesn't always make sense. You know, sometimes it's like, at one point Mattel wanted to make a Black Lightning figure for this year, for coming out this year, and the audience for Black Panther, it's solid, for a CW show.
Yep.
But after they did some research, that audience, it's a very small percentage of that audience that's already a small audience is a collector, and so. The guys at Mattel thought it'd be cool to do a Black Lightning figure, but comic, because then you're going to get a broader audience, and they haven't done a Black Lightning figure in years, so it made sense. And capitalize on the noise of the show, put a new figure out of a character people like generationally and for a long time. And the folks at DC, they're like, no, it's got to be the TV show version. It has to be the TV show version. And it doesn't necessarily make sense, but it makes sense to them. It makes sense for their initiatives. Like they want to prop up the show, and that makes sense to me. Like, of course you want it to prop up the show, but as a collector, I'm not interested in that figure. I want a Jefferson Pierce from the 70s with his afro and his deep, I think that would be awesome, but we're not going to get that one.
Like I hear you. Because I want a Bruce Timm Green Arrow or a Phil Hester Green Arrow, and I don't want a Stephen Amell Green Arrow. Why would I want that?
Not at all.
Yep, 100%.
And Arrow's been on TV for a long time, and yet still, it's not. He's great. It's a great show, but he's not my Green Arrow. Like I need a comic one. I want the crazy goatee. That's what I want. And I want the Peter Pan hat. I don't want a hood.
Back in the day when Pops first launched, and I was somewhat getting into them, one of the ones that I bought was Sinestro.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being a little bummed because it was the Sinestro based off of Mark Strong from the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever. It's a Sinestro
yeah.
figure. Where else am I going to find a Sinestro? And like, he had the Scott.
Yeah.
Turns out that one ended up being worth a lot of money too. Sold that one for a nifty amount.
Wow.
Yeah, right. And then even the Bane from Batman Dark Knight Rises, like Tom Hardy Bane.
Mm-hmm.
That one, it took me a while to sell that one actually, but I eventually ended up selling that one for like 10 times the price that I got it for. And none of the
Wow.
I'm not a guy, I don't save boxes for the Pops because I figured they'd all be worthless. So like it's just these are displayed Pops, and like now my collection is down to 4. I think I bought my wife the Ninja Turtles, obviously, and I have.
Did you buy them like because she loves it, or did you buy it like Homer buying a bowling ball for Marge? His own name on it?
No, my wife is a bigger Ninja Turtles fan than I am.
Oh, okay.
She's hardcore with it. Like she hit me once. Alex really liked this story. I recently, like last year, I was going through a bunch of storage that I got from my parents' house, and I had a bunch of baseball cards that I had found, and I looked up the cards, and I was like, oh, hey, there are a couple rare cards in this set. See, I was like, oh, let me see if I can find them. And it turns out I had like 4 of the 5 rare, and by rare, I mean they're worth like $5 instead of, 5 cents. And, but the rarest card in the set was a Jose Canseco rookie card. And I was telling my wife this story, and in the middle, as soon as I say Jose Canseco, she goes, a Jose Canseco bat? And I went, what?
From Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, and I was like, why did you just scream that at me? It's a baseball card. What are you talking about? And she's like, it's from, and like she got disappointed with me.
You didn't know that was Raphael yelling at Casey Jones?
So then he messages me the story, and I continue with, tell me you did not pay money for this.
She schooled me. So, when it comes to like the Ninja Turtles, I remember we got them in at the bookstore. We got in every one of them, and I was like, yep, I have to get every single one of these for my wife right now.
Good job. Good, you're a good husband. Good job.
I try.
And to make it better, 2 years ago, New York Comic-Con, they found a Splinter figure from like an independent maker of some
It was like a
kind.
resin figure. I can't remember who made it. But it's not a pop figure, but it kind of looks similar to a pop figure.
The sizing is right.
Yep. And she spotted that, and she's like, I'm buying this because it completes our set. I mean, I guarantee you there's a Splinter Pop figure. It's just we never snagged it.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen one. I'm sure, like you said, it exists somewhere, but I don't remember seeing one.
Right.
There might be 2 variants of it too.
Yeah, there's probably a wall. That's another thing. I never thought of toy hunting videos. I didn't know you could go toy hunting in a Walgreens. Walgreens is for getting a lawn chair in a pinch situation, or your prescription.
Like what Jason was saying about like hitting up Target or Walmart or whatever. It does get down to it when like you try to calculate or track the message boards for when shipments will arrive at the store.
Yep.
And then when they should be going on shelves.
Yep.
And that's when people like either get there as they're stocking or the morning they've stocked.
Dude, it's you're talking to someone who I worked in receiving at the bookstore for a couple of years, and like seeing how that kind of stuff kind of works. Sometimes it's a miracle stuff even makes it to the shelf. But I remember Barnes & Noble for Force Awakens. I don't know if it was the first one ever, but Barnes & Noble got an exclusive pop. It was Finn, but instead of the normal Finn figure, he's holding a blaster, but in the exclusive one, he's holding a lightsaber.
Right.
And everyone went bonkers for it. And we got like 3 in at first. And like people were like breaking down the doors for these. And like I snagged one myself. One might say
that was before the movie came out too, isn't it?
I believe
so. No one knew that he wasn't the Jedi in the movie.
And now it's worthless. I tried to sell it on eBay a couple months ago. Nobody wanted it. Anyways, but yeah, pop figures are enormous. And I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon.
No, I certainly hope not. Every time I think that, well, now they're done. They're doing Golden Girls. That's it. That's the last hurrah for them. And then something new comes out that there's fandom around. That there's new fandom all the time. That's the crazy thing. And with Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and everything else, there's new stuff all the time for people to get into, even casually. I think that's what people want now, is that they want to buy into the brand. They want to They don't just want to watch a show; they want to celebrate it with something. And Funko's capitalizing on that for sure. So it's brilliant. I hope they stick around for a while. It's good for collectors. It's just not my cup of tea.
Right,
Mm-hmm,
right.
mm-hmm. For the work that you do, one of the things that I always forget is important is like box art. And like, it was something that was explained to me in high school in like in a portfolio art class. It's like, you might have to do this someday. And I'm like, nah, that's for someone else to handle. I want to do cool shit. And now it's like, yo, you see the box art on this? Like, this is important.
The first time I ever pulled out a Skeleton Crew figure, like the Tony Chu minibus that I got, I was like, yo, did you see this box art? And I couldn't believe what I was saying.
Right. Well, see, and when I worked in packaging, I always wanted to do more. Like that's why it like ended up pushing me into product. Is I always wanted to do more, and I wasn't satisfied with just have the China illustration team, because Mattel has a very talented illustration team in house in China, and they would, whenever we do new packaging or something, they'd want the team there to do the art. And I found out that you could hire DC artists to do packaging work. So for quite a few products, I had Mike Zeck actually working on some stuff for me, and Dan Jurgens did Doomsday illustration for us, and Yvonne Reese did a whole bunch of character art for me for something I was working on. And that, like, because I collected comic books when I was in high school, so it was kind of like, for me, it's characters and storytelling. Like, that's what I love. Like, whether it's toys, whether it's comics, whether it's cartoons, anything. Like, it's about storytelling and characters for me. And these are the guys that were bringing them to life. Like, Mike Zeck was bringing Punisher to life when I was a kid. Ivan Reese was drawing Green Lantern when I was reading comics again, more recently. And so Dan Jurgens was my Superman guy when I was in high school. Like, I was excited that DC actually brought him back to work on Convergence, and now I think he's doing Superman, or I can't remember what he's working on now. I know he's working on a Superman title, but like, I love working with creators in that way, and I was very fortunate that I got to actually contact them and work directly with them.
I don't suppose like you got to keep any of that. To be like, you got original Ivan Rice, like.
No, I know, right? Okay, so Ivan it was really easy to work with, and he lives in Brazil.
Yeah. And
when I was reaching out to him, I'm just gonna tell you this story. I don't care if anyone gets mad at me about it, but the DC artists, they don't charge a ton for the stuff they're working on. Like, I could hire somebody in the US to work on something, just a local illustration house, and they could charge me $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for illustrations. And when I had hired him to do some pencil stuff, I had him do an entire, like, all 6 members of the Justice League at that point. And he charged me a couple $300 each, like basically his commission rate for the figures.
Right.
And I was like, Ivan, you can charge me more. Like, this is not like I'm not a fan I'm a fan, but I'm not like someone at a convention. Like, you can charge me. And he's like, no, that's the going rate. It's fine. I was like, oh my God, man, this is beautiful art. And then so I asked him, can you send me, because he did Poison Ivy, he did Mirror Master, he did God, or some of the other ones he did. I think he did Atrocitus for me. And the Poison Ivy he did was stunning. It was just beautiful. So I asked him, can you send me the original? And so he sent me a scan of the drawing, and I think there was a miscommunication, because what I was really hoping is that he would just mail me his giant comic sheet.
Yeah.
But he was drawing it all digital. So there was no original, so to speak. Like, he just sent me his pencils, because a lot of these guys, they work in a digital format now. So I tried, believe me, to answer your question, I tried so hard to get it, but just working with them alone. So I actually have a print on a nice piece of paper. I don't know, it's not fancy or anything, but of that Poison Ivy, because it was just so stunning.
It's another instance of, and we do this frequently, when you find out that people you admire are good people, and it's just it's such a relief.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that are bad people.
Yep. And I had the fortune of meeting a lot of creators and getting to go do DC things. Like, at Comic-Con, I get to crash a DC party and stuff and meet other, like Dustin Yin, really wonderful, charming, hilarious, self-deprecating guy. Like he's just I couldn't believe it because he's so unbelievably talented.
He really
and he
is.
works so hard. I mean, the guy, he probably works 20 hours a day, and he's just, his art is beautiful, and everything, like anything, even his little Gotham stuff that he was doing was like beautiful paintings that he was working on. And but then he was such a humble guy. He was a family man. He was talking about his kids and stuff like that. I was just like, I couldn't believe I was there. Like, I'm just like, no, I'm too much. I gotta go. I'm sorry, I don't fit in here. I'm too much of a nerd, and I do not belong here. I crashed the party. Yep, kick me out. Yep, that's fine. I'm good. Thank you.
I did make a note of that because I was on your Instagram page and I was reviewing your highlight stories. And one of the things, like, who were smartest that you really liked working with. And Ivan was there, Mike Zeck was there, and also Toddnock was there, who seems like just the greatest guy.
He is such a sweet man. He and his fan interaction is wonderful.
If you follow Todd's, if you watch Todd's Instagram, there are so many pictures of him cosplaying with other cosplayers.
Yeah, yep. He absolutely, and he does every couple days or so. He does like a Q&A, like a live Q&A. And
he says they're 10 minutes, but they're usually a half hour.
Yeah. He's like 10 minutes, and turns out he's like, oh, we'll just do another 10 minutes. Like he's a gracious person. He's just wonderful. And I've never interacted with him in person. It's only ever been through email and stuff like that. And still, he was just really nice.
What you were saying about Ivan rings a bell, because we talked to Tom Rainey a couple months ago. Was that last year? That was last year sometime. That was after Terrificon.
God,
anyway,
was it?
Anyway,
I feel like that was more recent.
It might have been, now that I think about it. And yeah, he kind of said the same thing, where if he's doing production work for a company, he's going to do it digitally, because if he doesn't get to keep it, why give them physical product?
Yeah. I mean, I think Dustin Yin sells some of his original stuff. We're talking thousands that he's working some of that stuff. And because at some point he had posted on his Instagram that he's going to be selling some stuff and put some pictures up. So I was like, oh man, yeah, I'd love to. And I emailed him. He's like, how much for that Batman spread that you did? And he's like, $12,000. I was like, oh, sorry, disconnect. I'm sorry, wrong number.
Sorry, I'm dying right now.
Yeah. I guess I'll never own that. Okay, put that in the Holy Grail section.
I like it, but it's nice when they do make something physical, because then at least they'll, maybe they'll put it through their art rep or bring it to a convention, because that's how in pre-show I mentioned I have a orange Deputy Lantern Lex Luthor character turn by Joe Prado and
Blackest Night.
Yeah, and so when I saw that, I was like, "What this?" And he's like, "Oh, that's one of the turns of what they designed the figure off of." And I was like, "I want this."
Yeah, and now it's probably displayed. It's probably displayed right next to the figure that it's rumored. We don't know
for sure.
But we're gonna go with it. We're gonna say it's the figure that it's based off of.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I wasn't working on the DC stuff, so I can't say either way. But I do remember really wanting the Build-A-Figure in that wave and being very ho-hum about the rest of them. So it's awesome to hear you're so excited about the Lex Luthor.
I bought this was the Blackest Night series. I bought the Universe series. I got all of them so that I could build I think it was the AntiMonitor.
Oh, you're talking about the DC Direct one.
Yeah. Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Not the DC Classics one. Okay.
No, not the Classics. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Blackest Night stuff was cool. I remember that.
But I gave the AntiMonitor to a friend of ours. Because, I don't know. I'm kind of a sucker for the Build-A-Figures. Like, I don't want all of them, but I want to trade the pieces.
Right. Yep.
Yep. There was so he, AntiMonitor was in that one. There was an AntiMonitor that was done for the 3 3/4 inch line that existed before I worked there. And they built, the marketing guy had commissioned a couple of extra large ones. We're talking 24, 30 inch tall, something like that. And I think they raffled it off at Comic-Con one year, and there was one other one, and that one was sitting in Bill Benecke's cube every day that I worked there. I would just look at him like, man, Bill, you gonna take that home, or what are you gonna do with that, buddy? And just sat there like his little son in his cube.
When it comes to doing design work yourself, because on your Instagram we didn't mention what it was yet. JNL _ Toys, if that's correct.
Yes.
Right? Yep.
I like your consistency with
No,
just
thanks.
like your layout and how all the figures is right there. And you also posted, what are these? The designs for like Red Hood or Red Robin.
Yeah.
When it comes to doing design work like that and you're building it, do you get to just make the figure, or do you have to figure out like where joints might go or what your sizing is going to have to be? Or is that like kind of already figured into the program somehow?
I mean, I guess it kind of depends on, like, again, I was kind of boring you earlier with the details of budgets and stuff like that, but if you have the budget, you can do a figure from scratch. So you're designing everything and you're debugging all the articulation as far as where the joints go, whether you want double knees, you want hinges in the wrists, stuff like that. Some of the figures I worked on, they were already existing, and there was minimal tooling stuff. Like the Kingdom Come Superman I worked on, I was only really able to get a new head on there. So the wave was designed to be kind of cost effective. But you kind of just go case by case. So each figure is different. But you set out, I mean, so let's say it's brand new from scratch. You set out and you design, I guess, like I drew where I wanted my articulation to be and what I was allowed to do. I wasn't allowed to do double elbows because they were expensive. I wanted double elbows, but I couldn't. So, but I pick out, you basically do like a line drawing and show where all you want articulation cuts to be, stuff like that. And then you work with both the engineers and the sculpting team to figure out how it works in life. So the gray figures you mentioned of Red Robin and Red Hood, that was the first pass of sculpt from the Four Horsemen, and they're doing it digitally now. They used to do everything traditional, and they were done on what's called a 2-up, which is basically twice the size of the figure will be.
Okay.
And so we would get these beautiful statues essentially that were 12 inches tall, all painted up, and there are quite a few of them still at Mattel, just in a case, because they were all done by hand. But over the last 5-6 years, they've gone digital, so they're sculpting them digitally. You're looking at a 2D representation and thinking, yeah, looks good to me. I mean, that's fine. And because you don't know until you see it in 3D, really.
Right.
But you don't get to see a 3D model of it until that painted sample comes in. So, and the Horsemen will always output one and paint it and send it back so you can take a look at it. But they were at 1-to-1 scale, so they kind of lost that beautiful reveal of the giant ones coming in. But I don't know. I got more excited about the 1-to-ones coming in because that's truer to what it's going to be when it's done.
One of the things I was watching last year, we were lucky enough to make it out to 5 Points Fest in New York, which used to host the Designer Toy Awards that was at New York Comic Con, and now the Designer Toy Awards it's 5 Points and them are kind of the same thing now. And someone was there, had their whole computer set up, and they were doing sculpting work with their Oculus Rift, which looked really interesting because like you could spin the entire figure, you could add what you want, you could sculpt it just like in real 3D. Do you see a future in that being like what sculpting design is going to be, or is it just more practical to, use what tools you can on a regular computer?
I mean, since I don't sculpt, I can't say 100%, but every time I've talked to any sculptor, they always say that it's just a tool. It's the talent comes from the sculptor, and you just kind of adapt to whatever works. So, one of the guys, Eric Treadway at Four Horsemen, was always a traditional sculptor, always. When he worked on Thundercats, it was traditional. Like, it was always traditional. And then at some point, he's like, I'm tired of coming home with clay in my ears. And so he's like, I've got it everywhere. It's all over my clothes. And he's like, and I'm tired of that. So he started learning digital. And he said it's just a tool. Like, to him, it's like using a pencil or a pen. You're still drawing. It doesn't matter what you're using. So things like anything that can make it easier, faster, anything, I'm sure will be embraced by that community. But to him, it's just a tool and just another means for getting his job done. Like, in some cases, he would sculpt something digitally, and then he would still output and modify it slightly by hand because he wanted it to have that hand done feel. But I think the technology is getting better and better and better, and so we'll see. I mean, it's pretty exciting because you can have people working. There's a sculptor that worked on quite a few of my figures, named Brody, and he lives in Hawaii. So he's working through the Four Horsemen. They're contracting him in Hawaii. If it was a traditional thing, I don't know how that would work.
Right.
We would never be able to turn stuff around because they would have to ship it to him and then give comments and ship it back. And then say, like, it would have taken way too long.
Right.
So if anything, digital stuff is cut down on that time. I never would have been able to show Red Hood and Red Robin at Comic-Con last year had it not been digital, because it would have taken too long to get it approved, any of that stuff.
As we wind down on time here, I just have a couple more questions, and also we're going to obviously talk about where people can find you and your stuff and things of that nature. You mentioned doing freelance, for the time being. For someone, because you see a lot of people popping up on whether it's Kickstarter or other crowdfunding or something, like people, there's a whole subculture of people who create their own action figures from harvested pieces of other figures.
Customized.
Like, yeah. And do you have any pointers or best practices for people who might be trying to maybe design a figure, whether it's crowdfunding or something of that nature, or trying to get into the business at all? Do you have any trade secrets or pointers that you might want to give to someone?
I would say the biggest thing, since I haven't done a crowdsourcing thing before, so I don't have any experience with that directly.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to some guys. I think his name's Dave Silva. He did the Beast of the Mesozoic, which I'm probably saying his name wrong, but he worked on the Beast of the Mesozoic, which was a crowdfunded dinosaur line that he wanted to do. They were mostly raptors, and because he wanted things that were a little bit more anatomically correct and more scientifically correct, right? So he went through a whole crowdsourcing thing with that, and he has the benefit of 20 years experience being a sculptor and a toy designer and all that, and he said it was hard. But luckily he had some help with some people at the factories in China, because he's known people in the industry so long. But it's not an easy thing to do. So I commend anyone that gets it done. The biggest thing I would say is to be patient, because getting toys made, getting products made, it takes a lot longer than I think anyone realizes. And from paper, sitting down, drawing on paper, to actually getting on shelf is anywhere from a year to a year and a half.
Wow.
And the more complex it's longer. Some of the Fisher Price stuff that comes out that's really complex digital, they're working on those for a couple years, if not longer. So action figures, when they're being done by third parties, it's harder, and unless they're kit bashing things and they know exactly what they want. But it takes a long time. Once you get the sculpt and you get it turned over, the factories they're not super excited about doing small run stuff. So you have to wait your turn for them to fit it into their schedule. So they've got, these big factories are doing anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 runs on some things. And then you come in and say, can I get 200 of these figures? And they're like, yeah, in October of next year. You fit the when they get in. So it's patience. And I see that a lot with some of the Kickstarters that I follow, just because I'm curious, like, will that get made? And there's a lot of times they say, we're really sorry about the delay. Things are stuck in customs. We're working on it. Like, it's long. It takes a long time. And so patience is key, but don't give up. That's the only advice I could have about that.
Jared mentioned Skeleton Crew earlier, and we've talked to him a couple times. He's up here in, where is he, Maine, I believe. And he had some statues shipped over, the entire run. But he's like, yeah, I made a mistake. I shared my cargo container with someone else, and it got flagged for inspection because of his stuff. He's like, so now from now on, I'm just getting my very own container.
Yeah.
And it's like,
oh, wow.
That's what it takes to get your stuff on time.
Yeah. Yep. And these things, like, they're not. It's not like UPS or the post office. Like, It's not like they just put it on a plane and send it over immediately. You can do that, but it triples your cost of everything. So these things are going on a boat, which is weird because it feels like it's Jack Sparrow out there and he's just like got the black pearl out on the seas. But that's kind of what it is. It's sort of like, not pirates, but they're throwing it on a boat and it's taking a month to get across the sea. That alone is just that was mind boggling to me when I started working there. I was like, I just couldn't believe that.
I remember there was a Kickstarter that I had backed. I think it may have been Secret Hitler, where like they set up a thing where you could go to a website and it would show you the location of the boat in the water.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, wow.
people were so impatient with that Kickstarter.
Yeah.
That was like one of the most toxic, like not the campaign wasn't toxic, it was just the people who backed it were they were just so mad that they were getting a thing. But yeah, the whole customs and boats, and that's in movies. That's not real life. No, it's real life.
Right. Yep. And I mean, truthfully, this is a very different generation now. And it's affected us as the older guys. Like, it's an on-demand society. When you go to the store, if you see something online, like the new NECA Turtles figures that are done, I mean, those aren't new to me. I bought those last year or a couple years ago at Comic-Con, but now they're at Target. When you go there, you expect them to be there because, like, well, I saw it online, it should be here, and it's not there. But not just that, it's like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon. Like, you want to watch The Office, you don't have to wait a week for the new episode. You just put it on and watch the whole series.
Yep.
You know, it's like, it's a different generation now. It's on demand. And so to ask someone, hey, you know that Kickstarter you backed, it's going to be 18 months before I can even realistically get it to you. Like, can you be that patient? It's interesting, but it's just a different time now.
Yep.
Hey man, look, I'm just going to buy a 3D printer and like make my own. So just send me the files. Just send me...
Right, there you go.
Have fun.
I've got some stuff that I want you to 3D print for me too. So when you get that, let me know.
Okay, wait a sec. So on that, I did want to. I don't know if it's a question you want to answer, but it's like, is there things that you've made that like don't really belong to any other property, like they're original creations? Do you have like original things that you would fiddle with in between like freelance jobs or other jobs where it's like, you know, maybe I would like to have this line made someday, or maybe, you know, do your own character creation?
So Mattel was I mean, I know you said freelance time, but I haven't done anything on my own for the last 9 months. Like, no, like everything's either been for freelancer or for different toy companies I've worked at for the last 9 months or whatever. But when you're at Mattel, they have a very strict "we own you" policy.
Yeah.
And so even any idea that you have, if you ever try to work on it, they can take it. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to take it and put $100 million marketing campaign behind it and do something with it. They take it. And that comes from a really ugly court case that dragged on for years with Bratz. So I was very careful not to work on anything that would be toy related. But I did work on my own comic strip, which was mostly my own family stories, and that's on my other Instagram account, Dad Ventures. And so that's kind of like where I was getting my design jollies for myself, like telling stories was that. But as far as like products and toys and all that, I've kind of just let it simmer. Like it's sort of like it's work. So I'm just letting it be work for now and not fun. But there are guys that I know that they just have to create all the time, and they're just always coming up with stuff. And that's not me, I guess.
It's like Rick Baker. Creature maker Rick Baker. He's, you know, been a legacy movie makeup artist for years. He retires and he's like still posting videos of him like just goofing off with makeup. He's like, I'm gonna break out my my Count Dooku and see how I do with that. It's like, you don't have to, man. You can just relax, dude.
That is relaxing. Since we're
and that's part of my problem. When I was saying earlier is like I like to do everything, and so I've never been like Eminem, like sitting in my trailer like I just want a rap battle, like I just want to rap. That's all I want to do. I don't care what it takes to get there. And that's probably why I haven't been like hugely successful at any one thing, but I like to do lots of stuff. So like one day I'm playing my guitar for 3 hours, and then another day I'm like, I don't know, I'm working on my comic strip. So it's this problem that I want to do everything and not enough to where I can focus on something. So if I work on toys again, you know, I'll try and dial it in, I guess.
The company owning whatever you're doing, that's gone through the comic book series too.
Yeah.
Because there's creators who will like have an idea for a character and go, I'm not writing this down.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
no,
like,
it's true. I mean, who like okay, so I don't know. Did you guys like the Batgirl of Burnside storyline?
yes.
Did you read that? Okay, so that was Babs Tarr and Cameron Stewart, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they made Batgirl fresh and hip and modern and exciting, and her design was beautiful and fun again, right? Because it was so serious for so long.
Right.
And they ended up walking away from a very successful run because they wanted to do their own stuff.
Yeah.
And I can totally respect that. It was like they built up enough of a fan following. They had enough. I mean, not that they didn't before, but they used it as a launch point for themselves, and they're both doing great as far as I know. But I totally get it. It's tough. Like creator-owned stuff it's hard because you don't have the marketing behind you that you would if you were working at a big company like DC or Marvel or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I think Bendis was lucky because at some point he was stuck in that with Marvel when he was doing like some of the Ultimates books with Spider-Man, and then he'll be like, yeah, but I want to do this thing with Image, so just let me hook up with Image just on the side. Like, I'm 6 books ahead on everything I write for you, so just just let me do something else real quick. It's fine.
Yep. Yeah. And a lot of those, I don't know that a lot of them are signing exclusive deals anymore either. So I think that they try to help themselves doing it that way, but it's hard, it's I have a friend who's he's an independent comic book writer, and he's like, you have to do a lot, even for big companies like DC, you have to write a lot every month to earn not a lot. I mean, some guys are making like $2,000 a month writing books. You just have to write lots of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's not easy for sure. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try if that's your passion, but it's definitely not easy.
We are pretty much out of time, which is very sad to me because I just want to talk about Ninja Turtles. We briefly had mentioned your Instagram. We had plugged that a moment ago. That's JN as in Nancy L.
Yep.
I used to talk on the phones for a living. I had to spell a lot of things. JNL_toys. Where else can people? You also mentioned a comic strip. Can people go? Where can people find your stuff?
That's that's my comic strip's called Dad Ventures, and that's my Instagram handle as well. So I have another one. It's just I did a comic strip run for about 1.5 years that was just stuff about my family, and then some other random art things on there. That's called Dad Ventures, like adventures with the D in the front, and that's that's it for right now. I killed my Facebook account. I killed my Twitter account. Like, I just wasn't excited about them anymore, so I'm sort of just Instagram focused right now.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can find me hanging out at in Redondo Beach. So that's where else you can find me.
Yeah, we'll be right over. We'll take a look. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
That's excellent. Go check that. Go check everything out. Go look at all the toys. Buy toys. Do all the toy things. You're never too old for toys. That's my motto that I just made up. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. This was a wave of nostalgia, and also I got to flex my I know what the term carded means.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. I know what. Also, you had mentioned buck earlier, and if I hadn't looked at this thing, the action figure glossary that Alex had sent me before we started, I would have said buck. Are we talking about deers? Also, I pluralized deer.
Like, what's it? Yeah.
But I did. I was able to keep up. It wasn't a miserable failure as it could have been. But this was a lot of fun, man. Thank you so much. I hope you continue, designing and doing all the amazing things in the future. And may your future be blessed with many sewer Ninja Turtle playsets, so we can run all the. Nope, not going to go there. Anyways, this is a lot of fun. I'm officially rambling now, which means it's time to end. So Jason, thank you so much for coming on, man. This is great.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's it's really interesting. We don't get to do this sort of thing when you're working for the company. So this has actually been an amazing experience since I've been off of work. So thank you guys for reaching out. Alex, thanks for reaching out. And and inviting me and letting me ramble and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me, more than you probably know. So I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
That's rad.
We really dig talking to cool people about cool stuff. So
that's our really shitty masthead or our mission statement.
yeah.
I believe it's like on YouTube or Twitter or something. Like we just want to we want to talk to cool people who do cool things. But
well, I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. But that is going to do it for this week. Hope everyone enjoyed. I'm smacking my mic now. So until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
I was Jason. I still am, but I was. So take care.
Happens all the time.
I mean, we never know. You might not be. Who knows? Anyways, but this has been episode 370 of Opinions May Vary.